I realized I missed the connection that I have with Jesus when I sing. So I missed the dependence. And it was just this like profound moment of going, oh, wow. And I walked off stage, just said to Joel, my brother, God's just called me back to music. He's just done this massive work in my heart. I don't know what that means. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I just know that a major shift has happened, and I fell pregnant right after that trip.
Oh, wow.
Literally within weeks.
Well, we've got Rebecca St. James with us. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
You got some big life changes going on now.
Yes, lots happening.
Yeah, we'll talk about your music.
juggling.
And speaking of that, you have done what my wife did, and that is leave a phenomenal career.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, let's face it. I mean, you were very successful, and
Thank you.
And to be with your family.
Yes.
What was that transition like?
Kind of a no-brainer for me. It
Yeah.
wasn't a hard thing to do. Yeah, I mean, at the time, we'd just gotten married like a year prior, I think, 2011. And so it's been 10 years now. I can't believe it. But this was my dream, like, to be married and have a family and to sow into that and to sow into it well. Like, I think I've just always wanted to be a great wife and a great mama, and give my all to that. So I think when I was still doing the road a little bit, I'd slowed down a lot. But when I was still doing it a little bit and my husband was kind of all around the world with his band at that point, I just was like, I just want to be like on this one track, not 3-4 different ones anymore, and I want to give my all to it. So it was a joy to transition to that quieter season. I feel like I dealt with some kind of identity stuff after that.
That's what I wanted to know, because
Yeah.
that's what my wife kind of dealt with, is that, and she also felt this was strange. It's like people didn't look at her like she was successful anymore, and it didn't make any sense. Why would you even consider that? But if you're not actively in the workforce, then she almost felt like, she was approached differently,
Well, I think I was so used to kind of people asking about my update, and it was like, oh yeah, so I'm working on this album, I'm working on this book, we're touring a little bit. It was like I could go down the list of what I was doing at any point with the catch up, and then all of a sudden, I'm home or traveling a little bit with my husband, but it wasn't I couldn't kind of tick it off the list of like, this is what I've been up to. This is how I've been productive. And I think I started seeing how, I'm somewhat of a type A for Enneagram people. I'm a 3 with a 2 wing. My 2 is very strong, but I'm still a pretty go-getter, oldest child of 7 kind of person. And so I think it made me see how normal that had become in my adult life of being productive and I've done this and this and this, and all of a sudden I didn't. And so I had to kind of go, well, what is my value? And what am I bringing to the table in relationships? And where am I finding fulfillment? And so it was actually really good and really healthy to find my identity in other things. And I had a counselor, because I've done a reasonable amount of counseling. It's been great. Painful at times, but really great and really freeing. And he just said, look, Rebecca, you can sit in a room with someone, not say anything, literally not give anything on paper, and just your presence, just who God made you to be, is the gift. Mm-hmm. And that was just to really take that in, like, I'm the gift, who he made me to be, not being on, not performing, not
just being
even
yourself.
Tangibly saying anything.
Yeah. That's neat. I had a friend who also went through an identity crisis because he was in radio. I think anytime you've got an audience that's constantly giving you feedback, and the feedback's gone, well, who am I? You know?
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So why are you getting back in?
Well, God did something pretty radical that I wasn't looking for. A little over, so let me see. I have to kind of clock it from our daughter, like our second child. So she's 3 and a half. So nearly 4 years ago, actually, around almost exactly 4 years ago, we did an event with my brothers in King Country, and it was a radio event actually in Alaska, believe it or not. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. And we went to Alaska. I'd been asked to sing up there. The boys had been as well. The whole family was there, all the extended family. And while I'm on stage in worship, which also feels significant, a lot of like just kind of burnout pain, a lot of like, I mean, so much of the music stuff was so great and so fulfilling and so beautiful and such a gift to be able to do it. But there was also a cost to it, I think, in my personal life. So on stage, like so much of that just fell away. And we'd been trying to get pregnant. I'd miscarried a couple of times right before that. So we were kind of in a winter season. And even a lot of that pain fell away and a lot of hope was given. And I think I realized on stage, while I'm there and God's doing this massive work where so much is falling away, I realized I miss the connection that I have with Jesus when I sing. So I miss the dependence. And it was just this like profound moment of going, oh, wow. And I walked off stage, just said to Joel, my brother, God's just called me back to music. He's just done this massive work in my heart. I don't know what that means. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I just know that a major shift has happened. And I fell pregnant right after that trip. Literally within weeks. So I think that there was an internal spring or sunrise or renewal that happened that then allowed me to get pregnant. I think the tension of some of what I'd been working through in my life and then the winter season that we were in had contributed to infertility in a way, I think. I mean, you don't know till heaven, probably until God reveals actually what was going on. But I think the spring internally brought the spring circumstantially.
Sure.
So.
You know, I've heard a lot of, stories, people, my own story of my mom and dad trying to have kids, and there's something about releasing that pressure.
Yes.
And that tension.
Yes.
They adopted my sister. I come along.
Yeah.
Like that.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that story, I feel like, so often.
Right.
Because you kind of relax and go, it's not, counting on me.
Right.
It's not counting on, because it's the fight or flight, I think, that happens when you're in a hard season, that you're just hanging on.
Right.
So you relax, and I think, it's not an A plus B equals C.
No,
that's one thing I've figured over and over in my life.
There's probably no science behind it. But
I just, it doesn't always work.
Right.
That mentality, well, just relax.
Sure.
You can't tell yourself to do that really effectively. I think it has to be a work that's outside of you deciding.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So you're going to be doing, you've got a song coming out.
Yeah.
With your brothers.
Yeah,
and
very sweet.
Maybe we should address that because people
sweet.
don't always know the relation between Rebecca St. James and Luke and Joel.
Yeah.
Small bone, because that you're all one. How many brothers and sisters are there in the family?
There's 7 kids.
Seven kids.
There's me, then 5 boys. Joel and Luke are kind of in the middle, and then my sister.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 years after me.
That's a huge family.
It's a big family. I think now having 3, I'm like, that's a massive family. I think I realized how big it was. I mean, you'd see, we'd arrive at something in our van.
Right.
And people would count the kids coming out of the van.
Yeah.
And just be like, whoa. They just watch us like ducklings, going by.
Right.
And now I feel like I do that with larger families too. And there was 7 of us. It's a lot.
What was that like growing up with all those siblings?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
there's always someone to talk to. You're never without a friend. There's always something going on. It's very, very loud. There's just so much happening at once. There's at the table, the family table, there's literally at least 3 conversations going on. And I think all of us got pretty good at being in this conversation, but you could also kind of go over here and then come back. We just...
It's like being at a dinner party.
Oh, yeah. No, it is.
Yeah.
But every day.
Right.
Yeah. But no, it was so much fun. I mean, I think for me, I was oldest child, so I was definitely second mother. When I had started having children, I was not daunted at all by the idea of parenting. But then you get into it and you're like, no, it's really different. That you're now where the buck ends and you're making all these decisions for your child. It's a lot more when you're the main caregiver.
Right.
When you're the assistant mommy or second mommy, it's, a little different. But the functionality component of being a mom, I felt like I'd already done it.
Was that sort of like, since you were the oldest, kind of ended up being your role?
Yes.
Yeah.
My parents actually say, and they've said it so often, especially my dad, like, if I hadn't been kind of second mom, they probably wouldn't have had so many kids. Like, because there was just a functionality to it where I was kind of like my mom's assistant and helped a lot. I just always had a child on my hip. So it's funny because it's like now having children on my hip, our son is 1. I every now and then have flashbacks going, wow, this is my child, our kids now.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
family of
fun.
origin, because I feel like I've had 2 kind of parenting roles in a way.
Wow.
So it's funny.
So talk about this new song that's
Yeah.
coming out with for King of Country.
It's really special. I think there's some of those moments that you kind of hope for something special to happen, and then it either does or it doesn't. It's like songwriting is a real fragile kind of emotional thing. And, you show up in a writing room and you're like, wow, really hope the magic lands. And then a lot of times I feel like it just doesn't, and you work for it and you go for it. And you try to be vulnerable and share things from your life. But that day, that we wrote the song, because primarily the song landed in one day, which again is kind of miraculous. So yeah, it's a song called Kingdom Come, and it's really about revival coming, but it's starting with us. And it's so scriptural, which I love. It just starts out, blessed are the poor in spirit who long for you. It's got kind of Beatitudes at the beginning, and then let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But let this revival, let God's kingdom coming right now here on earth, which I think we're all so desperate right now for.
Absolutely.
Seeing him at work in our world. Like we're just longing to see him show up in such tangible ways, because I think all of us feel super needy after kind of what the year and a half that we've been through. So, and I think, we feel discouraged about what's happening in our world. There's fear, that just comes. And so I think this song just saying, Lord, let your kingdom come, and let it start with me, like in a revival sense. Like, it's just a real powerful song. So we've been doing it live a little bit. We filmed live on the road at a fair, and even just kind of teaching the audience and then having them sing with us. It was like powerful. Like the song connected in a way that, again, you hope for, but it's not always a guarantee. So
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We're going on this kind of adventure together. It's special because it's family. But again, it's up to him, really.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you think revival comes?
I think...
Because you hear churches, we're praying for revival.
Yeah.
We're praying for revival.
Yeah.
Does it just happen, or what do you think?
I feel like, and it's not like I've studied revival. Like, I'm not any kind of theologian when it comes to, like, in the past, what has happened with revival. But the first word, honestly, that came to mind when you asked that question was holiness. Mm-hmm. Not in a religious way, like, I've got to be holy so that God brings revival. More just like, almost like this childlike longing to please Jesus, because you've just got that love for him, that I want to please Daddy and I want to feel his pleasure in my life. And I think holiness, in the most beautiful sense, comes out of that. And then I think there's something so captivating about that kind of like pure love for Jesus that plays out in your life that the world can't deny.
Yeah.
Because they see kind of the hope, they see the difference, they see like the purity of life and the loveliness of that, and it's like, whoa, I want that. So, yeah. That's kind of what first comes to mind. But I also think there's just a movement of the Spirit that happens too, that's just grace, because we can try to kind of formulate it in church
Sure.
but it ends up just feeling forced and kind of fake. But when it's a movement of the Spirit and you know that he's showing up Sunday morning, it's like, whoa, that's special.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I think that revival is something that has to start individually, first of all, and it starts with you. And great moves of God or some man or woman who decided to follow him in a unique way.
A radical way.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's even like when I was talking about Kingdom Come, and like to me, there's a link to revive us. And at the end of the song, Joel's just like singing out, revive us, restore us. Like he says a lot of these kind of words. But there's that concept, and a few different people have kind of coined it. I don't know exactly who did initially, but the quote-ish is Rebecca-ified. If you want revival, draw a circle, step into that circle, and say, Lord, let it start with me. Let it start right here. And so I think that even when we were writing that song, that's what it was, because it says, let it start with us.
Yeah. So in coming back into music, is there like a main theme or feeling that you want people to walk away with, or something that you want them to learn about God?
Definitely. I love your interview questions.
Good.
I mean, you're such a craftsman. Yeah, you can just tell you've been doing it. You know, you're just so good at it. Yes, there is. And hope, you know, I think we're all so desperate for hope and encouragement, and I think what God has brought me through from a winter season for quite a few years, there was just like this sense of like, what's going on in life, Lord? Like, you know, I'm trying to get pregnant. There's these miscarriages happening. It's hope deferred, making the heart sick. I just got this pain. And then my husband was in a similar place for different reasons. And so it was just this winter, and then seeing God bring us into a spring and seeing him kind of change our lives internally and externally. It's like I have a story to tell now of hope that has come from my life that is just sweet to be able to share. And even I think my journey with singleness, I was single a lot longer than what I ever thought I would be or hoped I would be. You know, I just kind of thought, late 20s, I'll probably get married. And that'll be a long wait, but yeah, that'll probably be what it is. And I ended up being 33. But all that God redeemed in that time, you know, later than my timetable, was so huge and so beautiful. I mean, I will always pinch myself at the fact that I'm married and have children. Like, I just... Really? Oh, gosh. I just feel so grateful. It wasn't a given.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. You'd think someone real successful, was it a doubt in your mind, or was it just...
I think I knew I wasn't just going to marry just to, just to tick that off the list, or like,
well, of course,
settle, or, you know, like just kind of be, okay, all right.
Well, you were picky then, right?
I was quite picky.
Well, that's good.
Oh yeah, for sure. But pickiness can actually, I think, in some ways, sometimes defeat our dreams. If you're so perfectionistic and so looking for, you know, this idealistic scenario or this princess scenario that is just not real life, then it might actually keep you from, you might miss the person. Yeah. You could. So I think I was aware of that, but I also so wanted God to confirm to me that this person was his man for me, and that was his call on my life. And it was very important to me. So I felt like I had to wait for that. Right. And I really only fell in love once. I never fell in love before I met my husband. Wow. Yeah. Which is kind of special. That is. I think so. Kind of rare. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Can I tell a funny story about you? Yes, please. Please. I like that. So the last time... I hope I'm going to like this. Maybe I thought it was... You may not find it funny at all, but I thought it was really funny. Yeah. So at the time, you were kind of into the kiss dating goodbye thing. Right. Who was the guy that was... Josh Harris. That's right. Yeah. And... I'd written the foreword for it. Okay. So I wasn't a part of the book. Right. But I'd written the foreword for it. And I feel like... you kind of believed in it. It aligned with, you know, I'm going to be intentional about dating. I'm not just going to be flippant with it. Right. And so anyhow, in the course of an interview at a radio station, this would have been early 2000s, and I said, so tell me about the kiss dating goodbye. And you just look straight at me and you go, I'm not doing that anymore. That's good. You looked a little uncomfortable. That's good. Yeah, no, not doing that. I'm dating. Yeah. I'm dating. Oh yeah. Well, but you know what's interesting with that book, and I feel like I haven't talked about it a ton publicly, but with friends I have. I enjoyed the book, and wrote the foreword for it because I feel like in dating in that time, and probably period, like it can tend towards being a selfish thing. Like I need somebody on my arm, and I need to kind of use them because this just makes me feel good. But I'm not really thinking, that this could lead to something. I just want to be with this person for this blip, and but there can be kind of a user mentality that happens, and I felt like the book challenged that. And for me, it wasn't like I'm hanging up the dating hat. It was, I'm going to date or court, but be intentional about it and really try not to just use someone, but be moving towards marriage.
I think that's wise anyway. I mean, I think of, when I was dating, I'm divorced and remarried, and so I've kind of dated twice and all that. But, if you know internally, we're not going to get married, then why waste someone's time?
I know.
And
I'll admit, there probably was a point where I was so discouraged, like there just wasn't the kind of guys that, I was really, really looking for. So I probably did date at a certain point guys that were good guys, but not necessarily like spouse material.
Sure.
So I probably went back on my philosophy a little bit at a certain point, just because it was like, well, I do want to kind of have a good friend that I'm seeing romantically.
Right.
So I wasn't always as intentional as what I wanted to be, but for the most part, I think I was. And I was like trying to look for that man.
Right.
That was my man. Yeah.
Well, of course. Yeah. It's the goal, right?
It's the goal.
Define your man.
It should be. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. So what has God been teaching you lately?
I mean, probably just the trusting him again in new ways, and I think that's kind of an all of life thing. And I think he's in certain seasons being more overtly just saying, trust me, trust me, trust me. But I think as a parent, especially when I look at the landscape of the world and what's happening and some of the scary things that are happening in our world, in our nation, just in our communities, like the divisiveness just within even the church, like none of us are perfect, so there's compromise to varying degrees in all of our lives, but some of the compromise within the church and within leadership within the church is sad to me. It's sad. It deeply saddens me. And we've got people too in our lives that are passing away kind of randomly for different reasons, and or struggling, like fighting for their lives, like in a way that I've just not seen. Just heavy stuff. And I think as a parent, I look at our little kids, they're 7, 3, and 1, and you just kind of go, what is going on in our world? Are we really in end times? Are we like ramping up for that?
I've wondered the same thing.
I mean, I think a lot of us believers ask that question right now. It looks like it. Like, so what are we all in for? What is our kids in for? And I think in my younger years, you'd go to a youth conference and be like, Jesus is coming back, you got to be ready, like you're getting all amped up for Jesus' return, and you think, oh yeah, he could actually come in my lifetime. I'm actually probably, as of this last year or two, thinking he could, he could come back in our generation or in our kids, and we know in Revelation what all that entails. So I think it's just this new level lately of, I cannot take on the heaviness, and I've got to kind of limit even what I watch news-wise or how much I take into my inbox about what's going on in the world, because honestly, I'm the kind of person, I think we all have to judge how much we can handle, and I'm quite sensitive, so I can kind of take it on a fear or worry level, so I have to really limit how much I'm exposed to the darkness in a way.
I think that's really wise. Personally, I've noticed myself, and it wasn't like a conscious decision, but this constant 24-hour news, 24/7 news cycle of what it's been lately, and it's been everything. It's it's been COVID, the divisiveness in our culture, and I find myself just kind of drawing back, so that it's sort of like this din in the background that hopefully isn't in your face. I think you have to know when. Do you really need to know what's happening 24/7?
I don't think we do, and honestly, I don't know that we can handle that.
Right.
And one of the things I've thought about lately is that really, we were built for village culture, And only so much kind of agonizing, traumatic stuff can happen in a village. You know, you hear about these awful, awful things that happen in that village, but it might be a few people. Right now, because of online and because of 24-hour news, all of it, we can know about
everything.
So much tragedy.
Yes.
And I think mentally and emotionally, I think that's part of why so many people are struggling is it's actually too much for our brains. It's actually too much for us emotionally to handle. And so I think when it comes to social media and when it comes to news, I have to guard my heart because it's like, and I'm not saying like stick my head in the sand, know nothing. Like I'm not saying like I'm going to go off into a little place in the woods with our kids and we're not even going to interact with anyone or hear anything. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Because I think we need to live in reality and we need to prayerfully go, God, please be with us, be with our nation, be with our world, be praying and be giving to the church and ministries in such a way that we can be meeting some of the needs, right? Mm-hmm. But actually aware of it 24 hours a day and it being, our minds being bombarded with that, I don't think we can handle it.
Yeah. Kind of alluded to it. Do you have a little bit of apprehension towards what your children are growing up in?
Yeah. But I mean, maybe every parent feels that in their protectiveness, you know? Yeah. Maybe some generations have not struggled with that as much, but I think, you know, there's a mother duck component to you know, well, a father too. Like it's like
I struggle with it.
Yeah,
I do.
You're protective of your kids.
You want it. Yeah. You don't know how protective to be. You don't want to be too much of a bubble. Right. But then again, it's like, how do you slowly expose them to where we are? And
I think slowly is the right way to go. And I think I don't want the kids to grow up too quick or have that sense of wonder about life taken away. Like and you know, they're not going to have phones or exposure to social media till way into their teens. You know, I mean, it's like
Atta girl.
Oh gosh, yeah. Because again, that's that mother duck conviction on I think my husband and my part is just that they don't need to be exposed to all the temptation and all the stuff that goes along with that, you know, or online access or any of it until we know that they're equipped to handle that wisely and with holiness and with great choices. So, yeah. And there might be some battles in there, I don't know. But, you know, for sure, this is a place of prayer. And just as a parent, there's so many things that call you to pray, right? But I think that will be a moment by moment, year by year. Okay, so what in this season of life with this child do we need to be talking about? And what do we need to just be letting them not worry about it right now? Yeah. Or not know about it right now.
Right. So what's bringing you joy these days?
The kids, and just life with my husband, with the kids. It's so sweet seeing him, our son is 1, and just the father-son relationship, it's so special. He's just started walking, and so, you know, we're doing the whole thing of holding our hands out and seeing him walk to us and seeing his joy on his face that he's accomplishing something so huge. They just know. They know, I'm becoming a big kid. This is a big deal that I'm walking. Oh, yeah. The pride on his face. And he's saying, he's been saying mama for a while. He just turned 1, literally a few weeks ago. But he says, mommy, mommy, now. And over. We were in Target last night, and he's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. It's just so sweet. And I'll just say, yes, River. You know, yes, yes. So it's so fun. And we went to the splash pad the other day, me and the kids, and my husband was out of town. But it's just so sweet, just seeing them enjoy little water slides, and our oldest watched the younger ones, and I went up there for a minute. I mean, it's just sweet. Yeah, there's just a lot of loveliness to watching the world through our kids. And we're homeschooling so that we can go on the road too, because I'm not going to leave my kids to go on the road to do events and stuff. No. So they come, and it's just sweet seeing the adventure of the road through their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a good homeschooling teacher?
I'm getting better. Oh man. I mean,
Takes a lot of patience, I would think.
well, I mean, in last year, so our daughter's just gone into second grade. I'm actually very happy with our curriculum. She goes to a tutorial 2 days a week for the whole day. So she's kind of getting both worlds right now. She's getting kind of Christian school and homeschool, which is what I had. I had
sort of a
both.
hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had both, but I went to Christian school to the end of grade 8, then I homeschooled. So she is getting them like both at once from right away. But last year had just had a baby, so I've got a newborn, working on a new album, doing second season of my podcast, running a house, mothering, homeschooling. I mean, it was just literally so many things. And it just did my head in. And so I think homeschooling took a hit. You know, it was pretty chill for first grade.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing her fall behind in her reading or just not progressing, you know, just kind of staying stuck. So yeah, there's some of that mom guilt that just came in for sure. But she's pretty on track now, and we're progressing. And so
Yeah.
I'm happier with where we're at right now.
You know, you talk about mom guilt. I have dad guilt. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, moms have it too.
Dads don't talk about it
I
as
don't,
much.
you know,
Yeah.
there is this nagging feeling like, am I doing okay?
Right.
Or am I stinking it up in here? You know?
But you know
There's
what I
this
love
thing.
about that is
Yeah.
that you want to be a great dad.
I
You just
do.
don't want to be like a middle ground dad.
Well, you know what? And maybe this is a bad spot, but it comes from a place of almost fear, because it's like, I just don't want my kids to turn out. I feel responsible, and I know we're not ultimately responsible.
Right.
God's part of that, but there's that thing on your shoulders of I just want to do a good job.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think another thought goes, and I've heard other parents say this too, like, are they going to be in a counseling chair to kind of talking about
exactly.
me and how I did as a parent, like years from now, and
Yeah.
oh Lord, prevent that, you know. So, but yeah, we're not going to get it right all the time. And,
No.
And you know what I think I've learned to appreciate lately is, and I think my husband and I learned this pretty early in marriage, the power of saying sorry, you know. But I think it also applies to our kids, like just saying, you know what, I didn't handle that so well, and sorry that I got kind of a bit mad in that moment and, you know, wasn't the most patient mommy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power to that, and kind of humbling ourselves in a way with them. I'm not saying all the time, because I think, you know, we are in a place of kind of authority, and if we're always just, oh, I did that wrong, you know, it might hurt that in a way. But I think in appropriate times, saying, I didn't handle that so good, I think is good. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that builds respect. I think
Yeah.
I would say this too. Employers, managers, own your stuff.
Yeah.
If you goofed up, say you're sorry.
Yeah.
You will have so much more respect.
Yeah.
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 I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you
really
for
appreciate
having
it.
me. This is really sweet. Such a great conversation.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did too.
I did.